5 New Jersey locations.
WOBM News presents Ask the Congressman with Tom MacArthur. This is your chance to discuss the issues with 3rd District Representative Tom MacArthur. The phones are open, 732-505-1160. Follow the show on Twitter and tweet your questions to @WOBM. Ask the Congressman begins now. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome, everybody. Been a while. Tom Moncelli here with Congressman Tom MacArthur on the debut of Ask the Congressman for this specific congressman. He's here to take your questions, and we are going to be doing this on a monthly basis once again. I'm glad you're with us, and I'd like to hear from you tonight at 732-505-1160. We're going to talk about a lot that went on in Washington in the last 2 weeks, specifically the State of the Union address, some legislation that's been passed that's pertinent for you, and some of the things that he's up to in the district. We want to welcome in, by the way, before we get any further, all of our friends who are watching the stream at WPG1450.com, in addition to our web pages, and also the gang at NJTV, which is listening tonight and taking a look in. You can send us your questions, by the way, via Twitter at WOBM, or you can drop it onto the WOBM AM Facebook page. We're looking at all of it, and we're looking for you to take part tonight. Once again, that number is 732-505-1160. So, how do you like it so far?
Oh, it's been a whirlwind. Yeah, it's busy. We're doing good things, I think, to make life simpler and happier and more productive for people, and it's been good. Glad I'm there.
Now, you mentioned that there was a lot of bills going through in a hurry in the first couple of weeks. What are some of the highlights here?
Well, they're not going through in a hurry, but there's a lot of things going through. And I think the idea of this Congress is we now have obviously we've had a Republican House, and that continues. We have a Republican Senate now, and we have a real opportunity to put legislation on the president's desk. Despite some of the things he said in his State of the Union address, I hope he really will look at what we send him. Some of the things we've done, there's been a focus on things that help job creation, a couple of things to help our veterans. We can get into specifics
yeah, I would like to, especially job creation of veterans. There's two big issues here right now.
Well, the very first thing we did actually combined those two, and I was very proud to co-sponsor it. It was the Hire More Heroes Act. And I believe on this program, back when I was running for office, I talked about how two previous incentives had lapsed, and Congress had never renewed them. Mm-hmm. And what the Hire More Heroes Act does, it's pretty simple. When a small employer hires a new person, they're one person closer to that 50-person limit, where they have to, under Obamacare, have to provide insurance. If they hire a veteran under this act who already has insurance, as many veterans do through the VA, it doesn't count towards that 50-person limit. So it's giving employers a real incentive, small employers, to hire our veterans. We have 65,000 in this district, the most in the state, and I believe this will really help to spur job creation.
What kind of jobs are we talking about here? I mean, is that open-ended?
It's open-ended, and that's the beauty of it. Our veterans have not only unique training in most cases, but they've also got all of the disciplines that come from military service, mm-hmm. and it's open-ended. It's any small employer who's not already at that 50-person limit under Obamacare has an incentive to hire our veterans.
We have a caller coming in. You want to get right to it?
Sure.
We have Zach, you want to bring that call in for us? All right, thanks. Who's on the line, please?
Hi, it's Rich from Toms River.
Rich, how are you tonight?
Good, good.
Good. What's your question for
Congratulations.
Mr. MacArthur tonight?
Well, first, I want to congratulate Mr. MacArthur on his election and best wishes for success in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks. We've had a problem for more than 2 years at the shore. The recovery from Sandy, it's been slow and difficult. I won't get into all the problems at the state government level, but in your bailiwick, I want to know if you can help get Congress to fix the National Flood Insurance Program. There's no oversight by FEMA. People have been getting 20 cents on the dollar for coverage they paid for decades, and premiums will be skyrocketing. Some of us will be paying several $1,000s a year in premiums. The system is broken. Can you help reform the flood insurance program?
Well, it's on my list of items that need attention, and I'll tell you where I intend to start on national flood. It's something I'm very familiar with. I
Yes.
Spent a career in insurance, and I did work at various points of that career on NFIP. And I think it starts with this. For almost all of its history, NFIP worked just fine. After Katrina, it was strained, and after Sandy, it was broken. And so Congress, well-intentioned, but I think misguided, decided to, it was called Bigger Waters. You're probably very familiar with it, but
Yes, I am.
they said we need to make the program actuarially sound. That means it has to stand on its own 2 feet. The concept is good. The problem is NFIP is part normal insurance, and it's part catastrophic insurance. And catastrophic insurance, you really can't structure that to be financially sound. You have to take revenues from the general budget because you're dealing with a catastrophe. So one of the things I'd like to do is get away from this idea that for the normal day-to-day, I agree, NFIP should be fiscally sound. But when it comes to disaster relief, that's why we pay taxes into the federal government.
Right.
So in times of need, we get it back. This state doesn't get as much money back as we should. We only get 61 cents on the dollar. So I will focus on this, Rich, and try to get that provision permanently lifted.
Good, because it was a once-in-500-year storm, and we're paying all 500 years
right.
of insurance coverage.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not fair, and it's not sensible, because what happens is we're going to make the homes along the eastern seaboard unaffordable for regular folks that are holding down a job, and we can't ruin the economies of the whole eastern seaboard. It's not just vacation homes, and even vacation homes. Many of them are rented, and they are part of the backbone of our economy here. So it needs to be looked at through that lens, I believe.
Rich,
Good.
thanks
Go
very
for it.
much for the call.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Rich.
I have a number here in case you want to give a call like Rich just did, 732-505-1160. You could also drop it via Twitter at WOBM, or just send it over to the WOBM AM Facebook page. And we've got a lot of territory to cover, and we're already coming up to the first break. I want to get into some of this tax structure thing that he was talking about.
Okay.
Because I think how much we're paying to run this whole show has a lot to. I think everybody's thinking about that right now. So we're going to do that, and we're going to take your calls once again when we return, and that's going to happen right after this.
More with Congressman Tom MacArthur coming up next. This is Ask the Congressman. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
I'll never forget that moment.
Never forget that moment.
As long as I live.
As long as I live.
It started with a phone call.
I got the text when I was at work.
My first call-up ever as a member of the National Guard.
This was it, the real deal.
When we got to the armory, they briefed us on the wildfires, how they were getting dangerously close to homes.
It was amazing to be a part of this massive operation. Helicopters were going up with huge buckets to drop water on the fires.
Some of the guys in the unit were preparing for firefighting with local fire crews.
We went out in Humvees to help with the evacuations.
At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com. Discover what it means to be a citizen soldier, to serve locally as well as globally. Look into the benefits, including career skills and money for college. Take a moment. Go to NationalGuard.com today.
Sponsored by the New Jersey National Guard. Aired by the New Jersey Broadcasters Association and this station.
We all have that list of dreams for our homes. A new kitchen, a new patio, the latest home entertainment system, a spa. Well, it's time to make those dreams come true. The area's top home improvement professionals will gather for the 12th annual Ocean County Home Show from January 23rd through the 25th at the Pine Belt Arena at Toms River High School North. Come with your list of dreams and let the experts work with you to plan and execute your projects the right way. And if you're a big dreamer, you're in luck. Register on site to win a $250,000 home makeover. Your dream home is closer than you think. You'll find home improvement and remodeling professionals showcasing the industry's most dynamic products and innovative services for each and every part of your home, from the basement to the roof, patios to the garden, and everything in between. So bring your list of dreams to the Mac Events Ocean County Home Show at Pine Belt Arena at Toms River High School North, January 23rd through the 25th. For more information, visit macevents.com. That's macevents.com.
Listen to 1160 1310 WOBM AM on the go with Radio Pup, the free mobile app that puts your favorite artist right at your fingertips, powered by Autolenders.com. Stay connected to the latest music, news, and weather information right from your smartphone. To get Radio Pup for free, head to radiopup.com now or download it in the iTunes Store or Android Marketplace. Radio Pup, the radio app that follows you everywhere, powered by Autolenders.com. There's never been a better time to check out all the low-mileage, fuel-efficient, certified cars at Autolenders. See the full selection at Autolenders.com or at any of their 5 New Jersey locations.
Every morning in my classroom, I see kids with health problems that get in the way of learning. Kids with vision problems who can't see the blackboard, kids who were wheezing last night with asthma, and kids suffering with toothaches. How can we expect these children to learn?
I'm Dr. Irwin Redlener, president of Children's Health Fund. Millions of kids go to school with health problems that get in the way of learning. But we can fix this. Every child needs to be healthy and ready to learn so they can succeed in school and in life. Learn more at childrenshealthfund.org.
Congressman Tom MacArthur is here to talk to you. 732-505-1160 or tweet your question at WOBM. This is Ask the Congressman. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
And we're streaming on the web pages too, and at WPG1450.com tonight. Our group down in Atlantic City. Welcome in, everybody. Tom Angeli. And the number here to ask a question for the Congressman is 732-505-1160. And you can also send your question via Twitter at WOBM. We left off with the job creation bill, hiring more heroes. That sounds great, but is that it, or is there more?
No, this has been a busy week with a lot of others. We also changed under Obamacare the definition of full-time from 30 hours back to 40 hours. So that employers don't feel like they need to cut people's hours down to 29. And that's a big deal. There's 2.6 million people that make under $30,000 a year. And these are the very people that were at risk of having their hours cut even more. So I think that's a great change.
What was feeding that risk? What's the linchpin here?
Because when Obamacare reduced the full definition of full-time work from 40 hours to 30 hours. Mm-hmm. And now small employers at 30 hours had to provide health care coverage by mandate. Many of them cut their workers' hours from 40 down to 29.
Right.
To avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
And so our view was that's a really unfair punishment to people that are making the least amount of money. And so we changed it.
Has this been in both houses of the?
No, it's passed the House. It's over at the Senate now, and we'll see what they do with it. We passed Keystone again, which for the life of me I don't understand why this president hasn't even read what we passed, but he says he's going to veto it.
Mm-hmm.
That's over at the Senate. I believe that will pass the Senate. That's 40,000 American jobs. The executive branch's own accountants have agreed on that number, 40,000 jobs, and this president says he won't sign it. But we've passed it. We believe it's good for the economy. We passed a natural gas permitting reform bill this week that should allow more gas pipelines to go in more quickly. All these things have been focused on trying to stimulate job creation.
Is that 40,000 permanent jobs you're talking about, or is that construction just to get that pipeline?
Well, it's a mix. You have construction jobs. This is no small construction feat.
No, it's pretty. Yeah,
but
pretty big project,
you also have permanent maintenance jobs. You have the whole flow of fuel. You have this is a permanent industry we create.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot on the direct job creation front. We also passed a regulatory reform act that requires regulating agencies, when they interpret what Congress passes and implement it, they have to implement it in the least costly way. And we did that because our concern is agencies like the EPA and others create terribly high costs for business. And those costs end up punishing the people that work in those businesses. And so we've tried to make it clearer now that these agencies don't have carte blanche to pursue whatever agenda they want to pursue. They have to do it in a way that's fiscally responsible, the least costly way. And if they want to do it differently, they have to justify publicly why.
Are you speaking specifically of Superfund sites, or just
no?
This speaking about
it's not.
startups?
I was giving an example of the EPA. This applies to every regulatory agency in the government. That when they implement an act of Congress, they have to do it in the way that's the least expensive for the people that are paying for it.
Yeah.
So these are all things. I mean, this Congress is not 3 weeks old, and these are all bills that have passed. They're working their way through the Senate, and I think some of them may come back with revisions by the Senate, and we'll work through those. But I think we're going to put more legislation on the president's desk than you've seen in years. Years.
In the State of the Union, he was pretty vocal about he was pretty vocal about warning about a lack of regulations or downsizing regulations. Where do you find the where do you strike the balance? Are you talking about redefining regulations, or are you talking about deregulation?
We're talking about making regulation less costly to implement.
Okay,
that's that last bill that I mentioned.
All right.
But my concern, Tom, you mentioned the State of the Union address, and I am hopeful that this Congress and this president will find ways to work together. I'm certainly committed to it myself. I'm in the relationship development stage. I've only been there 3 weeks, but I'm trying to develop relationships with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, because that's how you get things done.
Yeah, I noticed your initial reaction to the State of the Union that first day was not nearly as harsh as I was expecting from a Republican.
Well,
it was actually quite conciliatory by comparison to a few.
It was. That doesn't mean I wasn't disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Because while I really hope to find some common ground and get things done with this president, he said he wanted to work with us, but 4 times in that speech declared, if you send me this, I'll veto it. If you send me that, I'll veto it. I mean, these are bills that we haven't sent him and he hasn't even read, and yet he's already telling us he's going to veto them. And at one point of the speech, he basically invited Congress, come and work with me on the things that you agree with me on. But there was no suggestion of, and I'll work with you on the things that are important to you that maybe I see differently. That's disturbing. That's not a spirit of compromise. That's a spirit of, I'll get whatever I can from you, but give nothing. And I think that's troubling to me.
We have a situation that we haven't seen in quite some time. We have a lame duck president in his final 2 years of the term, on the opposite side of the political fence from the entire Congress. And this can go one of two ways. Either there's going to be that dialogue, or there's going to be none. In which case, we're back to where we were 2 years ago, with the do-nothing Congress. But it's not actually a do-nothing Congress. It's this wall that's between the two.
This is the reason why my comments were restrained and conciliatory, because it's possible the president is posturing. He wants to send us a tough message. The reality is we're sending good bills to him. The first one I mentioned on the show, Hire More Heroes. I don't know how or why he would want to veto that. And some of these others.
But he didn't, did he?
No, it hasn't reached him yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he has had time to.
So, my hope is that he'll talk a tough game, but when he sees good bills, which he's been insulated from now for years because the Senate didn't send him anything, I'm hopeful that he'll realize, let's get something done, and he'll sign some of this legislation. We're going to find out.
Tell me really, what was it like? Was that the first time watching the thing in person?
Yes.
Okay. How much of a thrill really is that? I mean, it's crowded. Everybody keeps standing up and sitting down. It's like, does it get boring?
Well, the first of all, you're there in the room. The Senate came in, and then the Supreme Court justices were announced, and they came in, and then the diplomatic corps and the cabinet, and that there's all that pageantry, and it's a thrill to be there. So none of that got boring. I have to say there were times during the speech where I felt like I was watching your reruns from a not that good movie. I heard much of the same that I've heard for years now, and I wanted to hear more about creating opportunity, more about working together as elected officials. I didn't hear as much of that as I should have heard, frankly, but certainly not as much as I had hoped to hear.
No, he talked about creating opportunity, but maybe not in the way you were expecting to hear.
Well, $320 billion of new taxes is not an opportunity to grow anything except the government. I guess we can come back to that. But
all right, let's explore that, and we can do that when we return from this break, okay? We're here at 732-505-1160. It's Ask the Congressman. Talk to Congressman Tom MacArthur, and you got the chance to do that right after this.
Let Congressman Tom MacArthur know what's on your mind. Call 732-505-1160. Ask the Congressman continues next. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
New Camry, $18,988. Gateway Toyota holds nothing back during the opening drive. New 2015 Camry LE, automatic and more, $18,988. It's opening drive at Gateway Toyota, where a test drive can win you up to $5,000. Gateway Toyota, the home of the $5,000 test drive. Parkway exit 82 in Toms River. GatewayToyota.com. Includes all manufacturer rebates and dealer discounts. Excludes tax, tag, title, registration, and $379 dealer fee. Does not include college, grad, or military rebates.
The Jay and Linda Grunin Foundation is proud to announce the Engage Toms River Community Mural Project. Release your inner artist and design a work of art illustrating what you love about Toms River the most. It's open to all Ocean County residents, and the winner will receive a $10,000 prize with local and media exposure. The deadline for entries is noon on March 9th. For more details and to download an application, visit jayandlindagruninfoundation.org and engage Toms River today.
Hi, this is Michelle Brown, CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, where we've been helping businesses create jobs in the Garden State for 40 years. We've helped New Jersey small businesses by providing access to capital and offering innovative new incentives. This year, we've streamlined our lending programs to serve your small business needs with lower interest rates and increased lending limits. Call us today at 609-858-6767 or visit us at njeda.com.
This message sponsored by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, the New Jersey Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Guys, if you've been using or wanting to try Viagra but are worried about the costs, we have great news. Now you can finally get real results at huge discounts with our Healthy Men alternative to the little blue pill. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get results for a fraction of the price? Call today and get 40 pills for only $99. Others cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us if you want real results at the lowest prices. Never pay $15 a pill for Viagra when you can get real results for less than $3 per pill. Call 800-474-3051 today and save over $500. You can have those breathtaking, toe-curling moments again and again. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Call right now and we'll rush you your supply delivered discreetly to your door. Just call 800-474-3051. That's 800-474-3051. Again, 800-474-3051.
Do you have $10,000 or more in past due federal student loans? Well, you may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven with one free call. That's right. If you're a teacher, nurse, police officer, firefighter, or work for a nonprofit, then you may qualify for new federal programs to have your entire student loan forgiven. The Student Loan Council wants to give you free information on all the programs that can help, and the sooner you call, the faster they can help. Get the maximum loan forgiveness, loan reduction, or consolidation available. Plus, find out in the first free call what you qualify for. A loan forgiveness specialist is standing by to answer all of your questions for free. So stop worrying about your student loan payments. If you have more than $10,000 in federal student loans, this information could change your life. Call 800-579-4409. 800-579-4409. Completely wipe out your federal student loan debt. Find out how. 800-579-4409. That's 800-579-4409.
From Ocean County to our nation's capital, talk to Congressman Tom MacArthur right now. 732-505-1160. Follow the show on Twitter and tweet your questions to @WOBM. Ask the Congressman on News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Tom Angeli with Congressman Tom MacArthur, and we have a little bit more time for you, so by all means, give us a call. We left off talking about job creation, and we were talking about how we fund all of these kind of things, and that leads to the whole tax situation. What I got out of the State of the Union, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at a president that is trying to enhance the middle class and restore it, but he's also looking at the wealthiest people and saying, okay, you got to pay for this. So how far off the mark are we here?
Well, I think the problem with this president's policies is they're misguided. Forget for the moment who pays for it. His policies aren't helping the middle class, and they haven't.
How so?
We have the lowest labor participation rate since 1978, since Jimmy Carter. We have the fewest people in the workforce, 62.7%. This president's policies are not getting people back to work. And the things that he proposed, $320 billion worth of new taxes, those aren't just taxes on wealthy people. He wants to tax 529 plans, college saving plans. We want to encourage middle-class families to save for college, put money aside, be smart, save for years, and we'll give you a tax advantage to do that. Now he wants to tax those dollars when you take them out to pay for college. How does that help the middle class? It doesn't. He wants to raise the death tax from 40% to 60%. Now you're probably past just middle class, but you talk about a lot of small business owners whose business, the value of their business surpasses the death tax limit. He wants to raise the taxes. Families won't inherit businesses. They'll have to sell those businesses to pay the government 60% of the value of the business. That doesn't help small businesses. So I think the president is just misguided about how the economy works and how you stimulate job creation. He has failed terribly to help the very people he says he wants to help. And now his answer is let's raise taxes even more and double down on a failed policy.
You think this is sword play here? You know, if I come out with that sort of proposal, I'm going to get half that.
I don't know, Tom. Whether I don't know what his mindset is. I don't think he really understands how the real economy works. He's never worked in that. You know, it's always been academics or social involvements, and then it was politics. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think he really understands that the government can't just tell people you're going to do this, this, and this, and it's all going to work out fine. That sort of top-down, one-size-fits-all has failed every nation that's ever tried it, and it's going to fail us unless we get past it.
Have you had enough time to think about alternatives? Like, if you don't agree with that, have you had any time to formulate what would work as opposed to what he's
I think
proposing?
what has worked, if you look at the past, is when the government is forced to reduce spending, forced to make difficult decisions and not try to do everything, and you leave more money in the economy for middle-class families to decide how they're going to spend it, to invest in the things that make sense to them. That's what stimulates economic activity. When you curtail the drive to regulate, and you don't allow agencies to just grow and grow and grow, and well-meaning people who just don't understand the impact of what they do, they create rules for other people to live by, and those rules kill economic growth. So I just heard of one the other day. It was a simple reporting rule that was going to cost industry $1 billion. And you multiply that times all the agencies and all the regulations, and it stifles small business creation, which is where most jobs come from.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just misguided, and he just doesn't understand, and he won't listen.
We got a number here, by the way, is 732-505-1160, and Vinny from Tom's River has taken the liberty of dialing that. So let's get to Vinny. Vinny, good evening and welcome in. And what's your question for Tom MacArthur tonight?
Good evening, Tom. I had a question. My question for Congressman MacArthur is, you talked about your feelings on the State of the Union and what some of your plans are to implement, I guess, from yourself and to the Republican Party. But how are you working with local and other state officials in New Jersey to kind of help lower taxes or help the middle class?
Well, Vinny, it's a great question. I'm working with local officials in a number of areas beyond just tax relief, and realize state taxes are a whole different, state income tax and property tax are a whole different area from what I work on day to day. But we are starting to look at things that will create jobs here at home. I mentioned the Hire More Veterans, the Hire More Heroes Act, and that's for local benefit here. We're starting to talk about infrastructure spending, and I would much rather focus on the revenue side, creating more prosperity here at home, creating more money for middle class families, for all families, so that hardworking taxpayers can keep more of what they earn. And I think for me that starts with doing things that create jobs. We've started to talk about funding a transportation bill so that we have a reliable, stable source of funding. It's one of the things we're working on both in D.C. and it's being discussed here in the state. Those are the kind of things that will create prosperity. And here at home, the governor and the legislature are going to have to find ways of, I think, ratcheting down the cost of government here in New Jersey so our tax burden can be lowered locally.
Vinny, thanks very much for the call.
Yeah, thank you, Vinny.
One of the other things that came up during that speech, and it was pointed, was about Iran and how he's diametrically opposed to more sanctions. He also pointed out with Cuba, sanctions didn't work. These are not particularly good friends of ours. But how do you view this? Do you view this as a means toward engagement, towards reconciliation, towards finding common ground, or is this caving in? Is he Neville Chamberlain with Adolf Hitler in 1938?
Well, engagement, trying to improve relations, those are certainly worthy goals. But, and I agree, the sanctions, it's fair to ask, do they work? Can they be improved? But let's take a look at Cuba, for example. What did we get? What did we get? What did the Cuban people get for what he did? Nothing. There are criminals that have found safe harbor in Cuba, people that have committed crimes in this country and in this state. Did he demand that they be sent back here so they can meet justice? No. So I think the folly of what he did in Cuba was he articulates a worthy goal, which is let's try to improve relations, but we got nothing for it. And what he's ended up doing is empowering a regime that brutalizes its own people. And so I think that's a mistake. I think with Iran, I applaud Speaker John Boehner for inviting
Benjamin Netanyahu.
I welcome that because that's our most reliable ally in that region. It's a close friend, and he's been invited in to talk to both houses of Congress about how he sees the issues in that region, and we have a responsibility in Congress to make sure we're doing our part to make sure we understand the threats in the world, that we raise a military force sufficient to address it, and that's certainly on my radar as a member of armed services. So I think to bring in the Israeli Prime Minister is a good idea. This is one of the 4 vetoes the president has declared, that he'll veto any sanctions. He hasn't even read them. I haven't read them. They're not out to read yet. Mm-hmm. So I think to just unilaterally declare you won't deal with Congress, a whole branch of the government, I think is unfortunate. It's a mistake. We should be working together to make sure that our ally is supported, that we have Israel's back. And the Iranians have not shown that we can trust them. That regime has not shown that we can trust them. So I think we should take great care.
We know that he likes his executive orders, and we know that he's not afraid to use one when he wants to. How much of an obstacle is this going to be moving into the next 2 years?
Well, we just passed a bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security. That was the one department of government that was not funded back in December, before I took office. That was not funded for the full fiscal year. And the reason that it wasn't was because we wanted to take a look at the president's executive orders on immigration, his amnesty orders.
Yeah.
And we funded Homeland Security except for any funds to implement his actions. And we withheld that funding because he went too far.
In what way?
Well, the Constitution specifically states that it's Congress that determines naturalization laws. It's Congress. I mean, the Constitution couldn't be any more specific. He doesn't have the authority to just declare that 5 million people now have amnesty. And so I think the first thing we had to do was stop that and get back to a balance of power. Now, that didn't go far enough. It was a starting point that to reset the discussion, I think, to where it belongs. What I've argued for with leadership, and I've spoken to every leader in the Congress, we have to have comprehensive immigration reform now. And we're starting. We'll be dealing with a bill in the next, I think this week, actually, this coming week, to require that our borders be secure and to make sure that immigration control is required by law to shut down this flow of people illegally coming across the border.
Realistically, though, how is that possible? I mean,
of course it's possible. We live in an age where a satellite can, take a photo of you mowing your lawn. Mm-hmm. How can we not have an ability to see that people are crossing our border illegally? Of course we can. If we have the political will to say enough, we're not going to just have porous borders either in the south or in the north. We have a problem with maybe just as bad a problem with people we have no idea who they are coming in from Canada. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, these are dangerous people. In many cases, they're not, but they need to come here legally. And we need to make sure they're paying taxes and being productive members of society. And all of that has to be part of comprehensive reform so that we have a legal system. This country was built on immigration. It needs to continue, but it has to be legal and controlled immigration.
Ask the Congressman here on WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Tom MacArthur is the Congressman. I'm your host, Tom Mongelli, and our number here is 732-505-1160. Few more minutes for some questions, and that's going to happen right after this.
Call Congressman Tom MacArthur now, 732-505-1160. Ask the Congressman continues next. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
I'll never forget
that moment.
As long as I live.
As long as I live.
My first call ever as a member of the National Guard.
When we got to the armory, they briefed us on the wildfires. They were getting dangerously close to homes.
Helicopters were going up to drop water on the fires.
Guys in the unit were preparing for firefighting with local fire crews.
At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the New Jersey National Guard. Aired by the New Jersey Broadcasters Association and this station.
With a Sam's Club membership, you get incredible savings every time you shop. This Halloween, there's no better place to stock up and save than Sam's Club. Create a night of pure spookiness with great values on Halloween party favorites, like a 16-inch take-and-bake pizza for just $5.98, 84-count assorted cookies, only 25 cents a cookie, and 30 white or chocolate cupcakes for just 50 cents a cupcake. Join and save. Sam's Club. Life is better when you're in the club. See club for details.
The Lester Glenn family of dealerships presents Ask the Governor.
My father wants me to know he's listening. My cardiologist is listening. Doc, you happy I'm alive? Great as that. And my brother-in-law Michael says he's listening in Albany.
On the Radio Pup app.
On the Radio Pup app. If all my in-laws start listening, the ratings are going to go through the roof.
That's the benefit of having a good, big family.
Big Irish Catholic family I'm married into.
Made possible by Lester Glenn Buick GMC, Route 37, Toms River, the way car leasing and car buying should be.
Here's a financial tip from Josh Jelinski of the Jelinski Advisory Group. Invest in tax advantage accounts like 401ks and IRAs. Grow and distribute your portfolio, adding in tax-free and tax-deferred accounts like Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks. If you would like to learn more strategies, call today. 888-988-JOSH. That's 888-988-5674. Or visit Jelinski.org. Securities offered through J.W. Cole Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Jelinski Advisory Group and J.W. Cole are unaffiliated entities.
Progressive presents Flo's newest jam. Bundling will make you feel like the mayor of Savingsville.
Bundle your home and auto together, and you'll feel like the mayor of Savingsville. Yes, you will. A town famous for the world's biggest puppy.
Bundle your home and auto together and save. Visit Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Home insurance underwritten by Homesite Group, Boston, Mass. and other non-affiliated companies. Available in most states.
Keep the questions coming. Call now to talk to Tom MacArthur, 732-505-1160. Follow the show on Twitter and tweet your questions at WOBM. Ask the Congressman continues now on News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Tom Mongelli with Congressman Tom MacArthur here and taking your calls for another few minutes. We were talking about the State of the Union and some of the different components of that. And one last thing that I did want to bring up, because we have a great two-year college right nearby. We have several great two-year colleges. There's one in every county. But the point of it is that he wants to make it free. Now, in your muted and somewhat conservative response to the initial response to the state, you expressed some concerns about how an influx of federal dollars would impact the underlying cost of community college. Can you elaborate on that? Wouldn't it just make it affordable?
Well, let me go back before that even. First of all, community colleges are a critical piece of education going forward. Technical schools, community colleges, we need to support, we need to encourage their growth because it's critical. The problem I have, one, there's a $60 billion price tag attached to what he proposed, so you have to ask the question, how do we pay for that? And secondly, if you flood any system with dollars, it generally results in the costs rising. And so I just worry that, the government will pay the bill, But will the cost of that education just keep going up? And what costs $60 billion today will cost $80 billion tomorrow. Does that mean the government now gets to decide what these community colleges teach? It's just another one size fits all. The government will control it. We'll give it to you. We'll run your life for you. We'll tell you, I don't think that that's the answer. Schools need to be affordable, but I want to see schools compete with one another. I want to see schools that decide for themselves what they teach and what they focus on. I don't want to see government bureaucrats suddenly swooping in saying, well, we're paying for it, so we'll tell you what to teach. And
it really comes down to your definition of what government is supposed to be doing, doesn't it? I mean, when you really come down to it, it's like it's your
I
perception.
think that is a good question. And for me, I look at that through a filter that says government should help. It should help. And there's things the government can do better than anyone else, or government's the only one that can do it. But when government starts intruding into people's lives so much that people become dependents, that's not good for the economy. You destroy initiative, you destroy creativity, and just look at the world stage. The societies that have tried it have failed. And so that's why I don't. That's why I look at those things with some caution.
So we can tell the folks at Ocean County College in Brookdale and Atlantic City, Cape May, to stand down. It's not time to panic yet.
Well, the fact that they would think about panicking says something, doesn't it?
What else got going on in the district?
Well,
as long as we're on the subject of the college and
there's a few. I read last week or the week before that one of the senior officials in the Pentagon said that the president's budget was going to include another round of BRAC. So I've organized a letter to Secretary Hagel, the Secretary of Defense, urging him to resist that. I've gotten quite a few other members of Congress to sign that with me, including Donald Norcross here in New Jersey, Frank Lobiondo here in New Jersey, and so that's been good to get bipartisan support on that. Mm-hmm. We're trying to help an ambulance service in Southampton in Burlington County. The Center for Medicare Services decided not to approve any new ambulance services because there was some fraud in the Philadelphia area, and this is a volunteer not-for-profit squad that was just hired to do all 24/7 all of the ambulance care in Southampton, and they're not being paid for it, and it's going to result in seniors, which are about 40% of the users of that system, having to pay for that service. Mm-hmm. So when there are people willing to do it on a volunteer basis. So I'm working with CMS to try to help get an exception. And we're also starting to look at what we can do for some of the FEMA difficulties that people here in Ocean County are having. Was very disturbed to hear that FEMA has sent 1,200 recoupment letters to our neighbors here in Ocean and Monmouth County.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's actually a group called Stop FEMA Now that is filing a class action lawsuit.
Okay, well, it's there's more than one way to fight this battle, and that's a good way too. But I'm starting to look on the legislative front at things we can do to curtail FEMA's ability to just reach in whenever they choose to and say, oops, we made a mistake. We know you spent the money 2 or 3 years ago, but send it back to us.
But we need it back now. So just
and,
go get it.
And if somebody has made a claim in good faith and FEMA made a decision in good faith and the person had every reason to believe that it was a legitimate claim, I don't think FEMA should be able to just come back later and say, we changed our mind. People's lives have been thrown into chaos already. So these are some of the things I've started to work on here in the district.
Congressman, I want to thank you for coming by. We're running out of time here, but one last thing before we go. Super Bowl, Patriots or Seahawks? I'm putting you on the spot.
I grew up in New England, but I'm not a Patriots fan, so it's going to have to be the Seahawks.
Okay, but if New England happens to win, it's still one for the home team, isn't it?
Well, it's the East Coast.
We're going to have to figure out how to straddle that line. Thank you very much for your time, Tom.
Okay, my pleasure, Tom. Good to be here.
Ask the Congressman is a presentation of Town Square Media, New Jersey's Shore News Division. Our producer is Zach Collins. Technical coordination by Tom Tremblay. Our digital coordinator is Dan Alexander. Town Square Media, New Jersey's regional operations manager is Steve Arlina, and the regional director of Town Square Media News Operations is Eric Scott. Thank you, and we'll see you in a month. Have a great time. Good night.
You've been listening to Ask the Congressman with 3rd District Representative Tom MacArthur, a presentation of WOBM News on News Talk Radio WOBM